Hi, and welcome back to the Summit Series, Yoga Beyond Exercise, conversations to heal and lead us into the new paradigm of peace, harmony, and prosperity. I'm your host, Julie Upton. Today's guest is Kristen Bielecki. Kristen is an awakened soul embodiment guide, intuitive, and energy healer. Through several years of conscious awakening and activations, Kristen now facilitates transformation on all levels of one's being to harmonize mind, body, and heart and soul. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. I would love to hear from you. Like, what's your kind of divine purpose here during this time, and how you're working?
Yeah. Around 22, I went to California from New York State and spent several years there too. So it was a very awakening time for me as well. Big part of my journey. So yeah. But and that's kind of where I started coming into waking up to my intuitive abilities again, and recognizing, the depth of purpose that I did have on this planet, which was to understand it. Understand all the parts and pieces that were taking place on the planet as far as us, why we're here, why these, like you say, patterns keep happening over and over again, and be a part of mastering the game and understanding it and supporting others and understanding who they are as a soul, why they're here, and and shifting as much out of the programs and system as possible to live, a soul-led life that's truly in harmony with this planet, with creation, with who they are and divine natural law. So that's why I'm here.
Well, it's a beautiful thing. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Woo!
I just see it so clearly that if we were all in attunement with our soul, then that purpose would show itself to us. And it is scary at first because of the old programming, thinking we need to go to school, do it a certain way, so to speak.
Yeah.
But there isn't a certain way necessarily.
No, it's interesting because I see there's patterns in the awakening, process. And I feel that it is a shift out of those programs of, oh, okay, well, I have, like you said, go to school, I have to get a certificate. Because when I went through my own trainings of, when things started coming alive for me, I was taking, energy healing classes. I was taking medical intuitive. I was doing massage. I was like, what is this? And I just wanted to understand energy and chakras and, all of that. And then after a while, what started waking up was just how it was moving through me. And I was like, this is me. I don't need classes. I don't need a certificate. I don't need someone else to show me how to do this, because what's coming through me is just what it is. And that's what I'm going to focus on, is how the energy wants to flow through me, the intuition that's coming, the messages, the information, how my body wants to move with it, and just let that guide me. And I feel like that's the power that we are if we just give ourselves over to ourselves, right? Rather than thinking that it's external, that we have to learn it somewhere out there, then it just, everything opens up. And like you say, that purpose comes. And then of course, as you said, all that underlying experiences that we've had from either this life or a past life start to come up, because we can't fully embody the soul and fully embody that purity and divinity if we're having spaces and places in our bodies that are holding energies that aren't in the present, aren't now, but like embedded traumas or ideas or beliefs or experiences that we haven't fully allowed ourselves to understand or heal. They just take up space. They take up space in our mind and our being. And so once we get to embrace them, acknowledge them, embrace them, and work with them, and then transform them into our power, because it really is just our power, right? I mean, everything that we've ever done is from our power. And so when we have these embedded energies or thoughts or programs, we've put so much of our power into them that what we get to do is just reclaim our power and say, do I want this program? Do I want this idea? Do I want this trauma? Do I want this experience? I could do without it, or maybe I'm going to keep it around for a little longer, but we're still working with our power. And then that way it frees up more energy, more power for us to then put into the present moment of being, who we really are, and having more power to explore and move from. So that's a part of, something that I've really deeply learned and am still, work with, and what I do with others. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think you just said it so beautifully. I mean, every word just resonates with me. But then, as we both, I'm sure, do, we come in contact with people, and we all have a different language around it.
Yeah.
And so, people, what I'm experiencing is people they can't see the forest through the trees, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
how do we work or access with ourselves to help, other people who are in need, who want the suffering? I mean, the suffering isn't, I don't mean the ordinary suffering. I mean, just the suffering of being, like not knowing at all who you are.
Yeah. Well, it really stems from them first. It's just like that old saying is, you can't help someone unless they want to be helped, right? And I find that from doing this work, it's so true. Unless someone really has that inner desire, someone really has that yearning, that calling, and they're willing to do what it takes, and go through the suffering of the suffering, right? Be, really acknowledge and be present with the suffering, not just suffer, and not just be in the misery and keep going over the same loop thoughts or experiences. But if someone's really willing to shift that, that's where we as, activator catalyzers or just mentors and helpers can help them shift. We're just facilitating their own inner experience. But someone really has to be willing first, and if someone's not willing, I say, well, if you're not willing now, then let me know when you are, because I in and of myself, am not going to interfere with your process of not wanting to heal and come into your soul self. I mean, that's not my purpose. That's not my place. It's really someone that's got to be seeking it already, seeking it actively for that to shift for themselves inside. And, I think that a lot of people who, may be on the fence or, not knowing, and there's a lot of doubt and there's a lot of confusion, it just takes a lot of unraveling and talking, and getting into why, that self-reflection, and that, that's something we can do for people is, facilitate that self-reflection process. Like, why are you choosing these thoughts? Why are you choosing these behaviors? Why are you choosing these experiences? And that's the key thing, is for a lot of those people, for all of us, I had to go through it too, is that self-responsibility of being the creator, of saying, okay, why am I choosing this? I'm the one that's actually choosing this experience. And so once we can finally get to that point with somebody, that they're like going to take acknowledgement that they're choosing the suffering or they're choosing the misery. And I know it's challenging when people have traumatic experiences in their life. Well, I didn't choose to have that traumatic experience, in childhood or whatever. It's like, well, maybe on a soul level you did. Could you open up to that possibility? And if there's that opening for that possibility to come into that space of being in that responsible accountability for everything that's ever happened in all of our lives, then we can really deepen that self-reflection process and move through, the all the ideas and thoughts and behaviors and programs, and start to come into the changes that we can make in our daily life to support a new way of being, and go and start that process.
Yeah. And that is, yeah, radical personal responsibility. It's playing the victim is it yeah, it just incurs so much more suffering until you can allow that to stop
Mm.
playing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it really helps us if we embrace ourselves. I've really shifted language, and I know, we can do our shadow work, right? We're going to do our transformation. And really, I just use the word transformation. That's all we're doing is we're transforming energy, transmuting energy. It's alchemy, right? and instead of clearing or releasing or letting go, what really is the powerful place is embracing it. We're just letting it really be all in us, right? And embracing those challenging parts of ourselves. And that's what really creates that transformation. If we're constantly, resisting, like, oh, I've got to get it out, got to release this, I've got to let go, like, just feel that energy. It's like this, it's like that battle, that fight, and as we're coming into this experience on this planet right now of harmony and unity, it's that embracing of everything that we are, everything that we have been, everything that we are, and everything that we will be, where our true power lies, and just letting it all become this fluid flow of energy within us, that as we move through it, we're just transforming, whatever it is that we're transforming. Like if it's anger or doubt or confusion, we're just trying to balance it out with more centered focus. We just learn to be in that neutral centered space, so that wherever we are, wherever we go to, if we go to extreme joy, or we go to some anger, or we go to sadness or happiness, that we always know that there's this centered place to come back to, that is neither nor, and it's all of it, right? The paradox of there's nothing and everything, and everything and nothing. And from there, then we can really be whatever we need to be in any moment, without judgment, without self-criticism, without doubt. We just get to move with the flow of what's coming through, and just get to be. And I feel like that's the power that we're coming into now on this planet right now.
Yeah, I do too. And I think I'm so grateful that I'm seeing it in myself more confidently, trusting, right? Trusting the self. That's
Hmm.
such an important piece, is to learn how to do that
Yes.
and to allow it to be. And then when I'm not perfect
Hmm.
in a moment or two or three, not to not to you know, disrupt, like to go to shame and
Yeah.
guilt
Yeah.
and hatred of the self,
Hmm.
to it's
Yeah.
okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I went through that inner battle for a long time. I had a war going on inside of me for a long time, of getting so frustrated. I'd get caught up in guilt or frustration about something, like one thing I said out of a whole day. I'd spend days, ruminating it and like holding it and being frustrated about it. And now it's like, oh, okay, I said that. What was happening in me that I did that, or I said that, and it just becomes this self-reflective process where we're just constantly moving with the energy, and we don't get hung up on one thing from, like you said, that, those emotions and those ideas, that frustration or anything, because what we're doing is we're just allowing ourselves to be okay, that it's not the end of the world, right? That we don't, that perfection. It's like that another paradox is being that perfection with the imperfection. We're perfect as we are, and just remembering that every moment, like for me, it's useful. Every moment's a journey, every moment's a learning moment, every moment is an opportunity to grow and transform. And I am not looking anymore towards like this outcome of like being this master enlightened being where everything is like beautiful and happy and rainbows. It's like, no, we're going to have moments of that, we're going to have moments of that, and then we're going to have moments of not that. So let's just flow with those moments and let them be what they are, so that underlying that foundation that we're standing on and being in just is. right? That simple neutrality of it just is. And that from that place becomes such a power of being in the broader perspective of who we are as beings and who we all are as a collective. And then, one of the things that trust, we get to trust that in each moment, regardless if we thought we did something good or bad or right, we can let go of that polarity, and we can trust that whatever we just did, if it was anger or sadness or happiness, was just what we needed in the moment to help us grow even more and become even more of who we are. And that from that space, that, I mean, I don't know if you feel it, but it's like it's such a relief. It's like, oh, I can let go of the pressure of having to be anything other than I am right now. And then let that guide us.
Yeah. And then I know a big thing for me was holding the weight of the world on my shoulders, thinking that if I didn't, do the thing that I was here to do to help everybody, then I'm not fulfilling my destiny.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like, letting all that go and just doing what feels right in the moment
Mm-hmm.
is a lot less perpetuating some sort of trauma. It's like a fake altruism. It's like an unpurified altruism, because
Yeah.
in it, you just end up being angry or
Miserable or
miserable. And,
frustrated. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, it's interesting because I feel that is one step and one part of the process of becoming oneself. Like, because I went through that. I mean, I felt like it was for years. I was in this relationship and we had a business, and it was, it was great. But at the same time, I was like, this is not what I came here to do. This is not what I came here to do. And I've got to do it now. And I got to know what it is right now. And I would just like have these moments, and just get so constricted around it that I would cause myself suffering because I didn't, I went into this place. I don't want to be where I am right now. I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to be in this business. Not, so it just became this not reality, right? That lack not reality, instead of going, wow, okay, well, how is this supporting me in becoming who I am? Because it did. It was in a major experience that was supporting me in becoming who I was. And then at one point I did know, oops, I froze. I'm going to unfreeze myself. I knew that it was time to do whatever it was. And I left all that, just like we do, we know those moments. And it's, so what if we can just like settle in? Because what I did was like, okay, I'm just going to settle down. I'm just going to settle down, because that used to be what my partner used to tell me, like, just settle down. Just, it'll come when it's time. It'll come when it's ready. Just settle down. And so I did. I started to settle myself down. And as I started to settle myself down, it opened up so much more space to recognize what was actually happening inside of me, what was actually happening in that relationship, what was actually happening in that business, and how it was supporting me in becoming who I really was, or not. And I was always who I really was. And that's one thing we get to like reel back into. We're always who we are. It's just an expression of it. And the more that we grow, and it's going to be a new expression of it every moment. And even 10 years from now, when we've gained more wisdom and knowledge and transformation, we're going to be another expression of ourselves, right? It's not this one thing. And so what happened was, is I just started to settle down, and then I knew it was time to shift from that experience. I did. And then, moved to a different place. And then all of a sudden, boom, within a couple months, this is part of my story. I knew I wanted to get a hypnotherapy session to kind of help me integrate and understand certain experience that had just happened in my life. And I wasn't one that was, I'm one of those people that was always like, I'm going to do it on my own, right? Kind of people. I'm going to just do it all myself. And I didn't always reach out for help a whole lot. But there was just something that was just like, do this. And so I did. And I found this hypnotherapist in my area, went to this session, and boom, in the middle of this hypnotherapy session, Metatron comes through, and asked me and the hypnotherapist if we would work together and help assisting in forming the new earth. Boom, like I had never been in contact with Metatron before in my life. This was like it, but it was me going, okay, it's time. This is happening and I'm being called to do this. I'm going to do this. And then boom. And then it was like 7 years of very intensive, activating experiences with these master beings, Metatron and Melchizedek and all these other master beings, just showing me all this stuff. And then it led into, doing the work I'm doing now. And it's like if we can just allow ourselves to just be in the moment with whatever's happening and knowing that we're open and working towards and seeking and just allowing that from within and dedicating ourselves that I'm going to be my soul, and settling into that, then it just becomes more of a fluid process than having to like put all this pressure on ourselves and the weight of the world and, having to do it rather than just allowing it to be and become, who we are. Yeah. So that's it. I feel like that's most of what, I get to work with people on a lot of times is first getting through that trust piece, right? That settling down. And then just allowing the process and the transformation to just take place and continue and let each piece come when it comes, and taking action when it's feels divine to take the action, and it's just being as someone introduced me to this concept, that real time in present time, let's do everything in real time in present time. Let's process and be present in every single moment so that we're not, because what happens is like if we're constantly looking for something in the future or constantly going, thinking about the past, then if we can just be right here, right now in this present moment in real time, and we're just really experiencing what we're experiencing, the depth and the wisdom and the knowledge and the power that comes through that moment, really it just keeps building. That moment just gets bigger and more expanded, more conscious and more aware. And just practicing that really creates that centered neutral space to where there's not that need anymore, that pressure or need to reach into the future or, have to reach into the past. It's just, we're just in that now moment of fluidity.
And it's a habit,
Yeah.
everything that we've all like grooved out in our neuroplastic minds is just a grooving of,
Mm-hmm.
a constant habit. So we can make this a habit also.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I say is like being in this body as a soul. It's just constant practice. That's all we're doing is practicing all the time. Because I'm not in it all the time. I'm constantly, finding myself thinking about this or that. And I'm going, okay, coming back in, being right here, right now, and some days it's easier than others, sometimes it's not, we get these blasts of energies and you're just like, wow, it's like, and you can't, it's hard to think or function because so much is moving through and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to let it be what it is, not try to change it other than breathing with it, and then constantly just practicing the breath of presence and being. And that's it. It's a practice. It's a journey of practicing.
Oh God, it's so fun though, because I think of it like it's such an adventure. I have no idea what the day is going to bring me because right now is a moment in time that is just full of possibility when I can stay in it.
Yeah.
And then if my mind goes, back or forward into the past or future, I've that's what I've decided to do in that present moment. I've decided to have an experience that looks like a future experience or a past experience. It's just also funny. And that's really what's been my, it's become my, what do you say, carrot, so to speak.
Mhm.
Everything is so fast right now and changing so quickly that it's like, I just got to stay in it, because it's like, I have literally no idea what could happen next.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true because it's interesting because I'm saying like stay in the present moment, but when we have those moments where we want to reflect on the past, that's great. But when we're doing it from a conscious place of reflecting on the past, we're not like, hanging out in regret or guilt or something about the past, that it just is this conscious awareness, or in the future, just like connecting with our future self, connecting with the power that we are, and just going, okay, I'm going to make a bridge here with myself. And, I have this image where, our center is the center of the infinity symbol. We're the one that the future and the past is weaving, this energy, you know and same with the Taurus, the toroid field, it's like here we are in the center and everything's flowing. It's all there, and so we can choose, are we going to kind of flow in that past or present space from a conscious present moment and just experience it, because it all is in the now. And if it all is in the now, then we can move in that conscious way, right? And draw on those experiences and transform those experiences. And when we are in that place of possibility, right? Because I'm a tasker. Like I'll just say I'm a tasker. Like I'm okay, today this and this and this and this and this and this is gonna get done, right? and and I have a son, and so I'm just like moving, like, okay, let's play, okay, let's task, let's play, let's task and play, let's like let's like let's keep this moving, and sometimes I still find myself getting constricted around that task that I still see needs to get done, and he's like, no, let's go over here and play in the snakes in the yard or whatever, and I'm like, okay, great, let's go play snakes in the yard, okay, let's go task, it's like, let's get that taken care of, and so it's just this motion of fluidity that we can get into that allows that possibility of like what can happen in between, right? It's kind of like living in that space in between, right? Between us and the stuff that's getting done or the stuff that we're doing. It's like, and that's the power of like being in that centered space of the body, of ourself, that deep inner space. And when we're interacting and acting from that internal space, then it's like there's so much space and possibility with whatever it is that we're interacting with, because we're not so like embedded into the experience, right? It's just something that's moving in our field, and it just creates much more of an open experience and possibility. And then it's like, ooh, it's like it's almost like we can create time and space that way and make for more fluidity and I guess the words that people like, there's joy and freedom, and beingness. Yeah.
Maybe you could explain. I mean, I know what it is, but what is the toroidal field? I talk to people about this, and they get confused about that. So I would love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because when you look at energetics and you're actually like mathematically and energetically looking at mathematics, they've actually found that there is this field of energy that exists around the earth, around every atom, around our bodies, that is flowing. That's just going like this, and it looks like a donut. There's that center core, and it's just kind of like rotating in on itself and back out. And it's just the energy, the energy that exists. And how I can't say exactly how that happened, or I'm froze up again, or how that was created. It's interesting because I wish we still had it, but there was this really keen man, and I can't remember his name, but he actually broke it all down, and it was on VHS. It's old VHS videos that I watched years ago, and he broke down that torus field, like, and it just blew my mind. And this was, I think, gosh, probably 16 years ago or something that I watched this. And he was actually breaking it down with the mathematics and the alchemy, like through the Bible and through all this, like through all the imagery that we have, that we see, but it's not, the true story isn't actually being told, right? And it was just so profound. So I don't know why I bring it up here, but it was just so profound. And it really, really helped me understand the energetics of life and alchemy of life. And then when I started working with those energies, and then when I started going through those activations after Metatron came through me, it really came alive that I can feel this energy. And there's two toroidal fields. There's one that goes inward like this, and there's one that goes outward. And that's part of that whole infinity, right? And it's just the larger field of how our energy flows. I mean, that's it's just there, you know. I can't really say why or how it got there, but it's just they found it around like every living thing. That's the energy flow.
Yeah, and how I see it is like we're holding all that is and ever was, which includes the polarities and the dark and the light, however you want to look at it,
Yeah.
all at the same time.
All at the same time in every cell of our body.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in that acceptance of that,
Yeah.
there is freedom.
Freedom.
There's
Yep.
yeah.
I love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because it's so true. We are everything, and everything that ever was, is, or will be. Right. I mean, if we can actually just like bring that in and let that settle in. I mean, because some people are like, well, how is that possible that I could be everything that was, will be, and everything, like you say, because some people, still have that idea of like, oh, we can't be dark. We only can be light. I have to be a light being. I have to hate the dark and get rid of the dark and battle the dark, and it's like, wait, without the light and not the dark, it's a different side of the same coin,
Yeah.
right? It's life, and we are that. And that's kind of, I feel like that's why, we so focus on being in that center space, because that center space is where all of that is created from and moves from, and we choose, right? And that's that toroidal field. It's like that energy, that magnetic field. It's that magnetic field that's flowing around us, that toroidal field. you know what are we creating with our energy? What are we magnetizing? What are we magnifying in our reality? And we can choose. In some moments, maybe that what we may consider dark, of like being angry or, having something, maybe that's just what was needed to balance out the moment, to create the balance. And if we can come into that openness of that possibility, then we get to let's just be all of it. Because the master beings, it's like they're not saying just be all light, be all light and love and la la, it's like, no, they're here also working with the dark. And I see that because in my work, it's like traveling multidimensionally. I travel I see kind of what's happening on a larger scale of our reality, not just what's happening on this planet, but I'm seeing how these forces of energy that are translating into the beings on this, us as, men, women, beings on this planet are, and what's happening with all these other beings that we don't see on other planets, what's happening with these other beings that are the ones that are actually manipulating the energies on this planet through people, through us, through our agreements with them. And in my interactions with that and watching, it's like what really wants to happen right now, what they're really working on. Honestly, I see both sides, our master, beings that are holding the architecture and the harmonics and everything of existence with these other beings, these, what we want to call these beings that are darker because they have agendas that are embedded in power, control, greed, and all of that are creating the distortions. They also have that wisdom of divine law in architecture and structure, or else they wouldn't have been able to do what they've done, right? So they're also very wise beings. It's just that they're choosing to use their power in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And so what's happening right now is I see all these beings like having conversations. Literally, sometimes they're battling, sometimes they're having conversations of, how, can we come to some agreement, just like we have peace treaties and treaties on our planet through, it's just like as above so below, right? So I'm watching this. And so just this morning in meditation, honestly, because I'm feeling such intense energy coming through the planet right now, there's like this stabilizing, integrating, powerful changes in the crystalline grid of the planet, but I'm also seeing all these manipulative energies still being injected into the grid, to influence us and influence reality. So I'm like, okay, what's happening? And so I went and I'm just watching this. And I mean, it's just like seeing two like kids fight on the playground, right? When you see them like face to face and they're just at it, you can feel the tension and you can feel that, that part where it's just like either it's going to explode, and they're going to start fighting, or something's going to happen and they're going to choose to dissipate it. It's like, that's what I'm seeing right now. I see both sides holding their space so intensely of what they want that it's just like, this power that's happening. And the only thing that we can really do is hold our own space and balance and be who we really are, whatever that is. For some of us, it may be expressing some of these darker energies. For some of us, it may be expressing some of these lighter energies. For some of us, we may just be in the balance of it and not expressing too much of either or just being, right? And so it's like we're just in this play right now where we can loosen up the idea of having to be anything other than who we are. And that's the key of just kind of going inside and saying, who am I? Who do I need to be? And letting that guide us and really feeling from the heart and not judging any of who it is that we feel we need to be in any given moment, because that's the balance, that's the harmonics, that's when we enter into the space of living in more harmony with ourselves and what's taking place right now. Yeah. Ooh, sorry.
That was good. I want to talk to you more about the multidimensional,
Uh-huh.
the beingness. So, do you access it in meditation? I know you had your first experience in that hypnotherapy session, but
Uh-huh.
then did you do more hypnotherapy and then go into just your own access, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that question because I actually recognized that this was happening for me since I was a late teenager, that I could just access these points. And I actually remember that, in my early 20s, it was just like, I know that I can access anything I ever need to through meditation, right? I can do anything I need to in meditation. And so that's when I really started my practice. And so I was already traveling multidimensionally. I was already having this experience, but it wasn't like when that I did the hypnotherapy session in 2013 that it just became this direct guided experience from beings. And so for me, it was just like, just experiencing, or sometimes I'm just sitting here doing something in life and things just start happening. I'm just, perceiving things or seeing things or feeling things, or, and so it just becomes, it's become kind of a way of life, a way of life. But yes, I do access more of those experiences when I'm just sitting quietly with myself or others, depending on, if I'm in a group of people or just sitting next to a good friend and we just have that synergy, and just accessing that space and being there and, having that, having myself open up to that. And yeah, it was pretty wild because what I would do, see, they access when they asked that woman and I to work together, she would guide me. She would kind of guide me into more of a meditative, trance state. But I never go into trance because I'm always extremely conscious of exactly what's happening. So I'm never fully out. I have gone fully out before on my own in certain experiences when I did some deep travel, but it was more of being right there with it. I'm just kind of like the bystander watching what's taking place and hearing what's happening, hearing what's coming through my mouth, but I'm not filtering it. And so we did that for a while. And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, we just sit there. We just went into a quiet space and just whatever wanted to come out, who wanted to come in, if it was the Arcturians or Metatron or Melchizedek or the Pleiadians or whoever it was, would just come through and just start, speaking. And it was a process for that, for sure. But then it just became, then it was just like, oh yeah, this is just something that's natural, that I've already done. I just didn't, have such a direct experience with it like before, like as, specific beings coming through. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's pretty fun. Like I see, I have a very good visual. So I'll see what's taking place, what things look like if I'm taking to it, like what they were doing for a while was actually taking me to each specific dimension to say, this is the function. And I would see what it looked like, what was taking place, the colors, the patterns, the beings, the experiences, and so now it's a very visual and hearing and sensation. It's kind of like it's just all happening. It's like I'm just in it, experiencing it. Yeah. Full on. Yeah. No psychedelics needed here. Like yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have different special gifts and talents, so to speak, that come with us when we're born.
Yeah.
And so how would you speak to people on gaining access to those? Because some people might hear what you're saying and be like, oh, but that's her. Oh, she's special. She was born like that. But I believe we all are born with our very special gifts and talents. And they grow and they change and you get more. And, that's kind of through the power of being and trusting, your inner self, your heart.
Yeah.
But how do people access there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it just comes through allowing ourselves to self-reflect and be in that space, and let go of the expectation of it being one thing or another. I think that's the biggest piece we have to do is say, okay, well, I'm just going to let myself be me. And I don't have to have a visual, it may not be a sensation. I remember one session I had with this woman, she's like, I don't know how I perceive things. How do I get access to what I'm receiving and understanding that that's what I'm receiving? And so we went into meditation. I was leading her through this, through a process of just like feeling it. Like, what is it? Let's just go into a deep space and just asking, what is it? And it was like, boom, she got it. She goes, I just never trusted that because I always thought it had to be this way because that's the way other people, or I read it in a book that this is how to do it, And so it's like the biggest thing we can do is let go of whatever we've read, whatever anybody else that you're listening to, like me and you, right, say how they do it, and just going inside. And most of the time, it's something that we've already felt and experienced and just didn't trust it because we thought it had to be a different way. So that's like the challenge, is just kind of letting go of any expectation or anticipation of what it has to be other than just what it is. And letting ourselves then just go, okay, well, what if today I choose to just listen to that space that I've heard talk to me before and know that when I did listen to it, that it guided me to the right place. Or when I didn't listen to it, I saw that I should have listened to it, right? Or felt it, or went with that sensation, or went with that visual, or went with whatever it is. And then just every day, just build a little more trust and a little more willingness to let it guide you. Yeah.
Thank you for that. It's so nice to hear when other people say it. That's something that's come through so strongly for me. I just see it so clearly how when people are talking to me, I can see it's coming through their experience. And then a part of me judges myself based on their experience. I do this less now, or not at all, but I rejoice in their experience and let it empower me to have my own. But to get to that point, there is a lot that needs to let go, like you said, like let go of everything you've read, everything you think you know, and it's just like go with yourself and into your flow and
Yeah.
learn to trust. And we've all, I bet there's not a person on the planet that hasn't had that experience, and they know when they hear this what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I had to do that. I mean, it was like, it was clear as day to me what my intuition was and how I was receiving it. But it was that piece of trust, you know? My son is
Is that your 4-year-old?
yeah, he's yelling at me. Um, so yeah, it's that space of just saying, okay, well, what would happen in my life if I let this feeling guide me?
Yeah.
Am I willing to allow that to bring me closer to who I am, to shift my life? Because I know a lot of times it can be scary because it wants to shift our life in big ways sometimes. you know like you hear the intuition, it's time to leave this job, or it's time to leave this relationship, or it's time to leave this house, or whatever it is. Or it could be smaller things like, oh, eat this, or don't go to that today. It's just like, if we're willing, or go here, go for a walk, go outside, stop your work and just go for a walk. It's those inner nudges that once we start letting those become our true voice, rather than, the mind wanting to butt in and give its 2 cents, then we build that relationship. And then over time, what happens is we start to have, that consistent relationship with our mind and our intuition and our heart, and all of it has its place. All of it has its place. And like you were saying earlier, that groove, that habit, it's like we create that habit. And then over time, our mind starts to go, okay, yep, I hear you. I hear that talking, we can say that. And then, but my intuition is saying this, and then I'm feeling this in my heart. And then we get to put it all together and let it work together. And that's a powerful place we are, is having all these moving parts. And it's not saying, oh, I have to let go of the mind to just go with my intuition, or I have to let go of all that and just go with my heart. It's like, no, it's letting all of it come together and work together and have its use the power that it is. I find that fascinating in this whole unifying process is, unifying both hemispheres of our brain, so both functions and powers that both sides of the brain have are really merging and working together. And that's kind of when that pineal gland, wakes up, that all of that circuitry just starts to mesh and cross over really powerfully. And then it kind of starts to function with our intuition and our heart, and it just becomes a bigger magnified way of being that allows that, like you said, that word that you used was possibility. It allows more possibility, because we're allowing all the functions of our being to synergize, to be in a symbiotic relationship with each other, to where it's all has the ability to express itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it guides our body, and then our bodies. And I feel like that's where we get to become that superhuman, because then our body gets to flow with all those functions, and the cells and the DNA start to respond. The nervous system starts to respond. All the systems of our body responds and becomes more in synergy and stronger and healthier. And then it guides us to making the choices that's going to support the body to be even stronger and healthier. It just becomes this feedback loop. We just become what our bodies are, which is just a space of communication, receiving and giving and receiving and giving and just communicating. And we just become a communicator, right? Yeah. Like generating communicator, a generation of energy and communication.
Yeah. So I just have one more question, and then we'll let you get back to your child and your life. But you were talking about when you had that experience with Metatron and building the new Earth. I would
Mhm.
just love to touch on that because that's like that's a big topic for me
Mhm.
because I'm holding the space between the old and the new, and I'm like a bridge for
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
And and it's great. That's how I know, like, I hold everything, so I can do that. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting better at it day by day. It's like
Yeah.
not like I'm great at it, but I'm better at it. But
Mhm.
it's a fairly new hot topic because there's people that are going to come in. I'm sure you can just, it's like the floodgates are open and it's like,
Mhm.
woo, I just feel like I'm a guide, and I'm just like, this way, guys.
It's like that, isn't it? Yeah.
But then there's the building of the new earth, which I think some people are doing it so beautifully and they have no idea that that's what they're doing. That's what I think is hilarious. I'm like, oh no, you are doing it. Like everything is great. Just own
Yeah.
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
how do you see your role in building the new earth from
Yeah.
that specific perspective?
Yeah, is just as you are, I'm a bridge. I'm a bridge in many different ways, like from the old to the new, from who we have been to who we are, to what this earth was originally intended for and what it's gone through and where we're headed, and all the different levels of all the beings that are supporting us, that are seen and unseen. It's like there's so many different aspects that I play in. And for me, the biggest piece is going, well, because we are the ones on this planet living and breathing and interacting with this living, beautiful being of Earth. We're the ones that need to come into our role, come into our healing and our role of why we're here. So the biggest piece for me is to be this behind the scenes watcher of all these different pieces, parts and pieces playing together, and then working with people one on one and in groups to go, okay, well, what needs to take shape here for you to come into your powered space? Because when I look at life, when I look at experience, and we're looking at it as a geometry, we're looking at it as a harmonic, right? And the more people that come into their soul expression, right, we're like getting in tune, with the harmonic of creation. We're getting in tune with the harmonic of divine law, and when in universal law. And when we do that, then we're supporting the planet, we're supporting all the planets, we're supporting the universe, the omniverse, everybody and every being that lives on this planet. And so my role, here with building the new earth, is just watching all these moving parts and pieces and seeing what I need to do in my own life, to be in synergy and harmony with it, and then supporting people in understanding themselves and coming and doing that transformation work, and coming into their own harmonic. And also I'm doing the crystalline grid work. I do a lot of crystalline grid work with the planet and other planets and beyond. So it's just like I would say the biggest, the the I wouldn't say the most significant, because I'm just trying to find the words, but most of the work that I do is unseen, right? Is unseen. It's just I'm just doing it in the astral. I'm doing it in the field, right? We want to call it the field of existence. And then, the other work that I'm doing that's direct and relating to other people and working on, doing the inner transformation work and soul embodiment work. So, yeah. And the other piece too is understanding the old systems that have been on this planet and understanding how we can shift into new systems on the planet that we can all work in, that are creating more harmony and balance and are outside of, maybe the governmental, systems, and understanding and knowing what other people are creating that people can plug into, and be that bridge as well, so that we have a full understanding, a full experience of, because I feel like, a lot of times, we get into our soul purpose, but then we're still embedded in these systems on the planet that are not in harmony. And so it's just becoming more and more aware of how to uh, be in the much bigger, larger picture of life, in every aspect of life, on this planet that is going to be new. And so I'm here in the sense of doing it right here in the present moment on this planet. I'm not a believer that some part of the planet's going to split off and, some's going here, some's going there. It's like, it's really just vibration and dimension, and it's all happening right here, right now. In whatever dimensional place that we're functioning in, it's right here, right now, regardless if, someone else is in a different dimension over there. It's this living, breathing planet that we're on and doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see it already happening. I mean, I see it, there's the thing called decentralized, and it's, I understand, I'm starting to understand how that works. It's just humans, or men and women kind, building structures that don't include the old energies of, oppression, tyranny, uh, keeping like that low dense vibration. It's peer to peer, and it's free, and it's like, yes, and we eat our own fresh food, and we live amongst ourselves, and we're not, it just depends on how you choose.
Yeah.
And what you choose, and what's important to you, and we're all building it.
Yeah.
Whether we're aware of it or not. Because that's just the nature of what's happening right now.
Yeah. It's that decentralized bioregional living, right? That, gets to be, and then, I think there are going to be bridges to the old system. And then there's going to be people completely off, grid and in their own systems. And I think it's all just going to be all these moving parts for quite a while, right? Before, that new experience, whatever it wants to be, that isn't that, harmonic, that's going to be more of a mass collective experience, comes into place. But I think it is going to be that finding of who we are and who we are on this planet, because some of us may need to be in those systems for longer. Some people are already completely out of those systems and creating new systems and understanding how those old systems work, and creating new platforms and new experiences. And I'm watching it all happen, and I see, I'm seeing people who are pulling out of the old systems and are working within new systems that the old system already can recognize, and work within. And so it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating. And so it's really, I guess the word that comes to mind is being bold and strong. Bold and strong, and knowing who you are and letting that just be what it is, right? And bold and strong, and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how, this is the path I'm going to study. And it does, sometimes it takes a lot of study, of the systems to understand, how to function and how to be, and create, a safe, stable, environment in life for yourself, because we still are here, right, on this planet. Sorry, the sun's shifting and things are shifting. So and still creating a safe place, like, if you're going to put money in a bank, or you're going to pay taxes, or what systems are you going to choose and not choose, and how do you know how to work with that, based on your decisions. And those are a lot of the questions I've been asking myself, and finding alternatives, and studying that, and understanding who I want to be, on this planet, and how my energy, because it's like, if we still think about what we were talking about earlier, is what we've put our power into, how much more of our power do we want to keep putting into certain things that are creating imbalance on our planet, and how comfortable are we with pulling our power out of those, and what are our alternatives. And I think that's, just an individual process right now, before there's something that's completely like, here's a system that's working in place, that's, we can go into. And right now, some of us are just kind of doing it, and doing it the best we can, and learning how it works as we go, and just being like the pioneers of the experience, and that's okay. That's what we came here to be, and wanting to help others do the same once we understand how it all functions, and people can, you know, have that feeling of comfortableness, you know, because I think that's the piece right now where people are like, well, I'm afraid, you know, there's the fear of pulling out of the system, out of the systems. And so it's working with that energy of fear and saying, okay, well, you know, it's totally illogical, you know, based on what happens when we do pull out of systems, and there's all these other, you know, there's, you know, courts and this and that. We don't want to get involved in that. And so it's just being powerful and strong in who we are as a soul first, and creating that foundation, and then letting that guide us into exactly how we want to relate, you know, to the new earth as it is forming right now, and the systems in place that are in place right now. Yeah.
That's perfect. You know, it's always going to come back to the relationship with the self and the soul.
Yep.
Because I said it in my intro video for this whole summit. Wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
I don't think new world, new paradigm, old paradigm. It's all wherever you go, you and your soul, you know, your soul, there you are.
There you are.
And
It's
so
beautiful.
it's a beautiful thing to get that foundation, right? That sustainable foundation that you were just saying inside with your soul. Get
Yeah.
right with that, and everything else will come.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Thank you. Thank you for expressing that as well, and being that yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and
Yay.
coming on the summit and expressing your
Yeah.
soul divine purpose with us. I
Yeah,
really
thank you.